Hello, everybody. I think we're just going to wait something like maybe 2-3 minutes so everybody has a chance to arrive. Okay, I think we'll just wait 1 more minute and then we'll start. Okay, I guess we can start. Well, welcome everybody to our webinar. Today's topic is Headless CMS and why this is a strategic opportunity for publishers. We think there are 4 very straightforward opportunities that I'd like to talk about today. But before we start, a couple of things about myself. So I've been in the digital publishing space for about 9 years. Most of that time I spent with Axel Springer, working on Build and Belt, mostly on the consumer products as well as the newsroom tooling that Axel Springer built themselves. Earlier this year, I joined SPRYLAB as head of product and engineering. I really like news and magazines. So I have subscriptions for 5 newspapers and 4 magazines. Hardly have the time to read them, really, because I also have 2 children. So that's sometimes a conflict there. So about today, we will take about 45 minutes today. I think I will talk about 20 to 30 minutes, I guess. We do have the chat open. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to write them even during the talk. I will try to answer them as good as I can after the talk. And obviously, you will receive a recording of this webinar. Gundel, our head of marketing, is also on the call, said just now that she will prepare this tomorrow. So this should be rather quick. So just a quick word about SPRYLAB. If you're not familiar, we have been founded in 2007. We're a team of about 70 people, most of us in Berlin, but some and even a growing number of our colleagues are now also remote. We do come from the magazine world, with this very strong solution for e-paper magazines, and have a really wide variety of references in the publishing space, but also outside of publishing, as you can see here. And our main product is Purple. And just as a quick kind of intro in the beginning here, Purple is the editorial system for the digital age, with a very strong focus on publishers, both news and magazine publishers. It's a modular system that's easy and quick to integrate. It can be used either as a complete solution or as an extension of existing systems. It's highly focused on multi-brand, multi-channel publishing, so we can add new brands and new channels anytime, really. We added Purple Boost both as a way to increase productivity in the newsroom, as well as increase revenue on the front ends. And then on top of the kind of headless CMS that we call Purple Hub and the Purple Content Cloud, we also offer what we call Purple Experience, which is a front-end solution both for websites and apps. This is just kind of a quick intro, and since we will talk a lot about headless today, I will actually come back to the slide at the end and kind of talk about why we think that Purple is really well positioned to take advantages of this new kind of technology trend and brings a strategic opportunity to publishers, although obviously there are other headless solutions in the market. So just a quick overview of our agenda for today. So I would like to start to talk about kind of headless and what headless actually means, because it's kind of a buzzy word, and there's some very straightforward technical ideas behind this concept. And then I will talk about the 4 strategic opportunities, and I will go into these in detail when the time comes. And then at the end, I would like to share a checklist for Headless CMS, some points that we believe are crucial for a successful system that actually brings the opportunities that we believe this technology holds. So, like I said, first off, what is headless anyway? What does it mean? So, to understand headless, we need to understand kind of the traditional CMS approach, and it's very crucial here. So, on the left, I did a sketch of what a traditional CMS looks like. There's actually not really like a so there's headless CMS, and then I guess there's traditional CMS. There's no like a headful CMS or something like that. So I will just call it traditional CMS here. So what a traditional CMS does, and a traditional CMS would be WordPress as one example, or Typo3, or yeah, kind of like the old guard of CMSs, is it would be one piece of software that has the CMS backend, so the place where you would write your content, where you would manage your site, and then at the same time, the same piece of software would actually generate the front end, so it would generate the website itself. Opposed to that, the headless system is actually not one piece of software, but rather 3 or even more at times, really depending on the architecture of the setup. But the crucial thing about headless is that it actually has these 3 parts, so the back end, the delivery, and the front end. And to kind of make this maybe more clear, I need to change my screen here quickly. So one way of thinking about this is actually to look at the databases. Databases are pieces of software where data is stored. Usually, in our case, it's content, so articles and images and videos and such. And in the traditional CMS, there's really only one database. So you have this one database, and you have the backend where you would write your article, and it would be saved into the database, and then a reader would come to your site and would like to read this article, and it would actually be the same piece of software, the same database that would serve this article to the reader. This brings a lot of disadvantages, really, because as you might have experienced before, if there are a lot of people coming to your site reading the article, just because it's very popular, it went viral or something, or even due to malicious intent, so as a so-called denial of service attack, you would not be able to actually write new articles because the database is not available because it has too many requests. So that's a very, very kind of serious disadvantage of this architecture. Whereas on the other side, the headless CMS has a separation of these parts. So you would have one database and one backend to write your articles, create your content, and then a very separate piece of software that is called delivery, and it's basically 2 APIs and again a database, and then in front of that another piece of software that actually creates the website and or the app. So basically, if we sum it up, the most important thing about Headless CMS is that content entry and the presentation of that content are actually split into 3 separate systems. So we call actually the CMS, the delivery, and the front end. So again, this is what this looks like, and we'll come back to this way of visualizing it in the rest of the talk. So let's go into the strategic opportunities, and I think that the first one is actually really important because the headless CMS architecture allows you to focus on value creation. So how is this? So in a traditional CMS, you have this one piece of software, the monolith, which actually has these two parts. And these two parts need very different technologies. So obviously the front end is classical HTML, CSS, JavaScript, everything that's happening in the browser. People coming to your site need to see, your website, need to see your content. For that, obviously, standard web technologies is needed. And then on the other hand, in the back end, you have application program languages like Java, Kotlin, Python, PHP, whatever, even others. There are CMSs in Ruby or whatnot. But there are different technologies. So what does this mean? This means that we actually have different skill sets that are needed to work on this whole systems. So there's really no way to specialize for programmers working on the system, because the other thing is we would actually have relatively large teams. So either you have very, very shallow knowledge of these technologies, or you would have very large teams. And what do a very large team mean? Very large teams, and this is something that's quite important, especially in software development, but not just there, is that as the teams get bigger and bigger, we have more and more connections, and communication becomes actually less efficient. So since the old monolithical approach means that we have very different skills that we need to work on the same system, we actually need quite a lot of communication, because the communication is tightly coupled through the architecture of the system. So since there's all these changes and it's all the same piece of software, these people need to talk to each other quite a bit. So how does Headless help in this? And this is maybe a little slightly kind of hard thought to follow, but I hope I can lead you through this. So what Headless allows is that we actually have separate systems, and these separate systems actually allow for different teams. So and since we have separate teams, so basically each piece of the software could be a different team. Obviously, we could also have two of these systems in one team and one of them in the other team or something. But these separate teams allow for different objectives, and especially specializations technology-wise. So we could have a front end that is really highly focused on the end user experience, whereas we would have on the other side a back-end team that is very focused on newsrooms and how newsrooms work and how publishing works. So website and apps aim to increase engagement, marketing, and sales revenue, and the front end can actually really work on this, and also work in smaller teams. Just as one example, so how does this look like? So this would be the so-called GraphQL that we offer, and that's a very standard type of API at the moment. And so this is basically the way these teams would communicate now. And obviously, one very big advantage of Headless CMS would also be that obviously you don't need every part of this in-house. Really, but like you could actually use the backend as a service. This is something we offer, but also other vendors in the market, obviously. And you would actually just have this API, and you can actually work with this. So basically, given this idea of separating these services, we can now basically have product management and IT in publishing houses concentrate fully on the end users. So you could actually use the CMS as a service, the Headless CMS as a service, and could just build really awesome experiences for your users and subscribers, and concentrate on revenue optimization, while actually not working on the other part of the CMS, really. And the other part is that since there's a clear focus possible, you can actually have much smaller teams. As we see here, maybe 4 people or something could actually be quite enough for a really great website. Whereas in the old days, with a traditional CMS, you would actually have much more concerns around the other parts of the system. So that's the first opportunity we believe, basically being able to focus on value creation. And the other one, and that's basically the flip side of this, is that it also allows for optimal solutions for newsrooms. So it's basically two sides of the coin. So optimization of the front end for the end customers means that at the same time, you can also optimize the back end for the editorial department. There are not that many technical concerns that need, or actually there are still the same technical concerns, but by separating these two teams, or these two concerns in the way of APIs and the loose coupling of the software, we actually get into a situation where it's possible to focus much more on editorial needs. Whereas before the team was spread relatively thinly, or the cognitive load was very high. So again, if we have the front end and delivery API and back end, the back end would be the place, obviously, where the newsroom works, and the journalists and reporters actually put in their stories and augment them with images and videos and such. And this would actually be a place where we could also improve the service. So as an example, this is our current editor with some of our AI functionality. This can obviously be used as a service, software as a service, and this can also be quite future-proof because we can actually integrate kind of cutting-edge AI features. So one of the things that we do is we recognize entities in the text. We can generate links to other articles automatically. We can show related content automatically, and all these things are possible since it's really just one part of the system, and it can be quite easily separated. So the next opportunity from our side is that obviously if you go headless, you can also go truly multi-channel. So in the old way, and I don't know if you've experienced this. I actually went through this at Axel Springer when I joined there. We had a traditional CMS, and we had to integrate apps into this traditional CMS, and so that was quite the headache because obviously you then need to create an API for these apps, kind of in that old system as part of, and then you would have these discrepancies between what we would show on the web because it would be completely different from what we would actually do in the app. And it was really challenging on a technical level, but then also on an organizational level. And contrasted to this, Headless CMS offer way more possibilities to actually integrate other channels. And it's actually, and I think that's quite important if you look at this really wide variety of channels that I've listed here. It's actually quite simple to integrate stuff that we don't even know about yet. Like we don't know what's going to happen in augmented reality, for example, or VR. There are these rumors about an Apple device and like an Apple glasses or something that would be AR. So who knows what use cases for publishing come out of that at some point. So will we read newspapers or magazines in an AR view? What kind of data does that need? How do we integrate this into our system? The big answer is headless, because if we have a headless system, we have a strong API, a standardized API that really doesn't care about the way this content is presented. So because it's a separation of content and structure clearly, and it can actually and this can be used in all these different sorts of ways. Obviously, we would need to build custom services to work on all these channels. So obviously, a website needs front end. Same holds true for an app. You do need an app. If you integrate into TV, OTT, over the top kind of TV stuff, video stuff, obviously you do need an app for that, or you need to have some contract with some of the providers. Same holds true for all the rest, really, be it AMP, podcasts, whatever. So, but generally speaking, all these channels are possible and quite easily possible based on a headless CMS. Whereas in a traditional CMS, you would actually run into some problems here. So the fourth strategic opportunity from our perspective is personalization, and it's relatively close to the one I just talked about. It's relatively close to the multi-channel idea because it capitalizes on the same kind of technological advantage here. So if we think about personalization, it's really about predicting the next piece a person would like to read. So that's at the very core of personalization, and it really doesn't matter if we talk about Netflix or Amazon or a news recommendation engine and on a website. It's always about predicting kind of the next thing. Obviously, in the case of Amazon, it's predicting what next to buy. With Netflix, it's next to watch. Whereas in magazine and newspaper context is more about reading. But the question is about this the order of basically bringing content into a specific order for a person. And what we need is basically a way to get all of this content and run it through a prediction algorithm, commonly known as AI. And basically, we would actually have, again, the backend where all the content is created, articles written, podcasts uploaded, and whatnot. And then we would have our delivery API. Then we would actually have the recommendation services itself. And at the end, we would actually provide the personalized content in whatever kind of channel we want. So could be the app, could be a website, could be a newsletter. But basically what we need is a highly scalable delivery API in the middle, because the thing is that since this is personalized, we don't have one version for everyone, but we basically have one version per person in kind of the most extreme personalized approach. Usually it's more segmentation, but we still end up with a huge amount of different configurations of content, and therefore in a place where it's hard to do very strong caching. It's hard to deliver this at scale. So we really need to be able to scale the delivery API. Basically, as one takeaway here is that personalization is really only possible with a fully scalable delivery API. And so, kind of to sum up, we basically have these four advantages. Two of them are really kind of like two sides of the same coin. Again, focus on value creation for end users, whereas on the other side, this actually also allows you for optimal solutions for editorial operations or newsrooms in general. And then at the same time, Headless does allow for true multi-channel and really lays the groundwork for successful personalization. So given these four opportunities, what does a Headless CMS really need for you to actually capitalize on these opportunities? So as a quick overview, the first one, that's actually something that's quite important, means free fields and document definition. So this means that a Headless CMS should allow you to create your own document types, such as not just articles, but let's say maybe recipes or videos or whatnot. So this is important because if you can't do this by yourself, then you can't really capitalize on the opportunity of focusing on value creation. Because if the front-end team, if you want to introduce a new field in your content, for example, let's say you want to add certain sources or something, and you want to add a structured field for sources, you should really be able to just go into the CMS at this field and then talk to the people who do your website and have them actually include this field. The second one, again, is also, I think, quite important nowadays. We come from a time where editorial usability wasn't really a big focus. I think most of you have probably seen kind of like the old CMSs that really looked more like a text form. Fortunately, the market has been moving away from this, us included. We use Gutenberg editor from the kind of WordPress universe that is really highly usable. But generally speaking, it's really important to have high editorial usability, basically again to capitalize on the opportunity to have a really kind of newsroom focused, user-friendly backend, because obviously due to the separation of these services, so separation of backend and front end and the delivery API, it's much easier to actually focus on that. The third, obviously, is something that comes with the time. So data and AI functions are basically now kind of standard practice. And if you don't have any of these really in your CMS, I think the CMS is not really state of the art. And then another important point we saw with the personalization is that the API should really be scalable and flexible. Flexible also goes to the free fields and document definition. So if I create a new field, this should obviously be in the API straight away without any work to be done. And scalable goes without saying. And then the last one, and that's actually something that's quite interesting, that I really haven't talked about so far. It should be possible to actually integrate print functionality in it, because while moving into more of a digital world, there's still revenue to be made in print, obviously, and there's still important customer relations with print subscribers and such. So it's important to, even when you go digital first, to actually keep all the print opportunities there. And in a sense, print becomes one of the channels in a multi-channel setup. So a good headless CMS actually caters to this. So how does this relate to Purple? As you might imagine, we do have check marks on all these points, and actually we have something on top of that, which is actually what we call Purple Experience. So basically a framework, a toolkit to create your own front end based on our headless CMS solution. Coming back to our Purple slide that I showed you in the beginning, this might actually be a little helpful for you now, since I talked a little bit about what headless actually is and what the most important aspects of headless are. So basically we have these three parts. So we have the backend, which is called Purple Hub. We have the delivery and APIs. This is what we call the Purple Content Cloud. And then the front end is what we call Purple Experience. And we have for the front end as well as the back end, we do have these AI services. We call them Purple Boost. It's basically one product family. And on the front end side, we actually have kind of audience management and marketing automation tools. And then on the back end side, we have tools that allow newsrooms to be more efficient, such as the things I showed, like automated linking, also automated linking for products to generate affiliate revenue, but then also entity recognition, topic detection, those kinds of services. So basically, this would be all. I would be very, very happy to actually answer some questions. I'm not quite sure if there are any. I don't see any at the moment. Gunnar, do you see any? Is there?
No, I think there are no questions.
Okay, well, I think if there are no questions, I just wait for a second, but I think no questions so far. So obviously, if you have any questions after the talk, I would be more than happy to answer them by email, or also we could also set up a quick call or something like that. Obviously, we're also interested in the challenges you are facing, thoughts you have on headless, experiences. Like I said, I would be very happy to talk to you and to answer questions even after this talk. It would be lovely if you could reach out if there's anything you'd like to discuss. Right, but if there are no questions, I guess we could wrap things up now. Thank you very much for joining us today. Thank you very much for your interest in Purple, but also obviously in headless and the opportunities connected to this approach. And I hope that you got something out of it. And I really wish you a very nice day, and then hopefully a very Merry Christmas. Actually, thank you.